we had our top earning family last month made $1,300 in renting stuff from their garage. Probably any suburb area, you can take any square block radius, and you have the same inventory of power tools that Home Depot has. And and so why do we all own so much? Why does every house have that power drill that you use once or twice a year for 5 minutes, or lawnmower, etc.? My name is Jason Fairbourne. I'm the founder, CEO of Yoodlize. Yoodlize is an online rental platform that connects people to each other's stuff. Think Airbnb, but for things. So you may have somebody in your neighborhood that has a canoe that's been sitting in their garage for months, maybe years. They use it once or twice a year. We provide an outlet for them to rent it out, monetize it, rent to their neighbors. So somebody who may not have access to a canoe can rent their canoe, have a cool, unique experience without having to own that item. So that's what we do. We moved back to the U.S. 2 years ago to start Yoodlize, and we were living in Kenya, homeschooling. And what we would do is we would study a region, then we'd go there for a few weeks or a month. And so we'd say we'd study China, the history, religion, culture, background. We'd go and study it. And then my kids would experience firsthand. We'd come back, and I was always saying, oh, we'd be like in Tokyo, and I'd be like, I bet there's somebody here that has the Canon lens that I want to get this shot. And we were up in Norway, we were surfing the Arctic Circle, and I was like, man, there's got to be somebody here with a real hardtop board, not these foam surfboards. I'd like to really surf these waves. And I'd always make these comments, but to me, I didn't realize it until we told the kids, okay, guys, we're moving back. Let's start thinking about what business we'd like to start next. And just was brainstorming with the kids, a total powwow. And my daughter, 13 or 14 at the time, I believe, she's like, Dad, remember when you're in Tokyo? And she started riddling off all these things. Remember when we use Uber, Airbnb? You should start a company that does something like that. So I actually flew back to the States while my family was still there and just started doing focus groups and testing it out. And yeah, it's something that stuck. It resonates with people. It resonates from the environment. It resonates from having experiences, unique experiences without having to own it. And it clicked. So we pulled the trigger and started working and building this 2 years ago and launched roughly a year ago. Never know early market research, talking to people. The first surprise I had, though, this was a positive indicator for me, was it was 1 in 10 people, maybe 1 in 8 people said, oh, I've had that idea, or oh, my brother was telling me about this, or my cousin and sister-in-law were having this discussion, they wanted to launch this. I'd hear that repeatedly, oh, I saw this at a BYU pitch competition. People are always talking about how they've had this idea, they've heard about this idea, but it just wasn't out there. So it was a really easy sell for people, because so many people had this, that it was a good idea, but it's kind of difficult to get something like this started. Building a two-sided marketplace, making sure you have the supply and demand, and you're building them up equally. It's a challenge, and it's a big piece to bite off. And I love those challenges. As if you know my background and businesses we've started in the past, it's I love the challenge. So it's been fun. Right now, it's summer. There's a bit of seasonality to it, but it's still to be honest, it's really bizarre across the board. I saw yesterday somebody rented a fishing boat, but yeah, party equipment. What did I see over the weekend that was unique? Another one. Oh, somebody rented 30 chairs and tables, probably for a little gathering. Which that's one that used to be big. It's been slow since the pandemic, so that was interesting to see that one. But a lot of bounce houses, paddle boards, mountain bikes, motorcycles, those kind of things have probably been the biggest things. But we still get a lot of paint sprayers, power sprayers. I've personally rented my ladder, an 8-foot ladder. Sounds like everybody would have one. I've rented it 3 times. I've rented my power drill. I've rented a reciprocal saw. Some things that you'd think would be in everybody's garage, I've rented. But you think there's young families, recent college grads or whatever, getting their first townhouse, and they don't have room to store these things, and so people will rent. Surprisingly, just about everything has been rented. Another one, carpet cleaners. Carpet cleaners get rented often, but it really is kind of across the board. Our main strategy is we have a few competitors. There's a few competitors out there. They tend to go very wide. When they've launched, they've opened up the whole U.S., and so you can go on there and list in any state you want. And what you find is you might go into one state and find 5 or 10 listings, and it's really hard to pair up. What are the chances that somebody will go in and rent from them, one of those 5? And we've taken a little bit different approach where we like to go, our plan is to go deep and build micro communities. So we're kind of going one community at a time. So I'd say 95% of our transactions have happened in Provo, Orem. Even though we've opened up along the Wasatch Front, it's all happening here. And we're just trying to creep one micro community at a time. And we're looking at those, if those are in school districts or if they're like through collaboration with like a corporation, like if we could get like an Ancestry, for example, to come in and say, hey, let's promote this throughout our corporation. We can create a micro community of people like sharing things that they own with other fellow employees to enhance their life and maybe earn extra cash on the side as well. But building, strengthening relationships in the company. If it's those type of micro communities or if it's just geographical, we kind of focus on that as our approach. And so right now, since we've built out here, we're going to start trying to do a little testing of marketing, like into Pleasant Grove, Vineyard, start moving towards Draper and onward, and just very strategically testing our marketing tactics. At the same time, we did open up a soft round this month, and hopefully next month we'll start pushing a little bit harder, trying to raise some capital to make that happen. In these like kind of uncertain times, like where everybody's like it's crazy and hectic, and we're fighting over different political beliefs and mask or no mask. I feel like we're very, very, very divided as a country right now. That's my take. One thing, if I've ever had anything in the last couple decades spur any sort of faith in humanity, it's been like since launching Yoodlize, and it's for this one reason, and it is that when I went into Yoodlize, the one thing that I thought was going to be the biggest challenge was people like wrecking their products or stealing them. We haven't had any claims filed. We've had a couple things broken by a user, but they've always been resolved. And I have a number of cases. I had lunch with a guy last week, and he's like, hey, I used your app, by the way. I'm like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, and I rented, it was a mountain bike, and I actually got a flat tire, but instead of just patching, I went and I bought a patch kit. Went and bought a whole new tire, and I had him do a tune-up while I was there, and I took it back and gave him back in a little bit better working condition. And I could tell you probably a dozen stories. Like, I don't hear them all, but like a dozen stories like that where products have come back almost in better condition than when they left. And everybody's biggest fear is that something is going to break or not be returned. And we're just not seeing that. And what we're seeing is that people come to your door, they see your face, they see your kids, they see your dogs, whatever it is, that you're a real person. You have a conversation, you talk about like what's the coolest lakes to go paddleboarding on. They take really good care of your product, they bring it back, and you build relationships at the same time. And it's strengthening the community. And it's been really cool to see that, because it was something that like I didn't foresee happening, but it's actually been pretty cool.